If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Hello, Escape Pod listeners. Welcome back into the pod. I'm Julie.
I'm Charity.
And we have a very special day today because one of our all-time favorite guests is back. Yay. Do you want to introduce her again?
Yeah, so can we call you our resident forensic investigator?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Hollie is going to be a repeat on the show. We had a lot of people commenting on our episode that we did with Hollie, and I think I even said it that day. I think this was my favorite episode by far, and it's just because it was so raw and real and profound and it's changing so much, right? So anyway, and so people were like, we'd really like to know as parents what we can do, how to approach these things, how we can keep our kids safe, how we can have these conversations. And Hollie was so gracious to come back in. And so that'll probably be the topic we cover today. And who knows how many rabbit holes we go down.
There might be a rabbit hole or two. So Hollie is officially from the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and an employee of the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, correct?
Correct.
I remembered well, didn't I? I didn't even have notes for that, Hollie.
That's impressive.
So before we get into the hot topic of the day, we have to start like we always do. What are you escaping from, Charity?
Oh, Lord. Well, after we had Hollie in the first time, she mentioned a podcast called Hunting Warhead.
Oh.
Holy crap.
Is it giving you bad dreams?
No, I don't know if I had bad dreams. I often do, but that was one of the most intense series. And yes. I love those investigative series. I was captivated. I cried. I cheered. I was ready to kill that son of a bitch when he's interviewing him. Cocky, smug. I mean, I had my mind. Have you finished it?
Oh, yes.
First of all, okay. I had my mind completely blown when he's like, okay, so he.
Is this a spoiler? Do we need to give a spoiler alert?
This is this is what she's dealing with on the daily basis. Okay. Like, so I won't tell you how, this all connected and they busted this guy, but he was one of the biggest perpetrators, creators of child pornography on the internet, just the stuff he did. And he's talking to the journalist, because it's a journalist out of Canada, the CBC, who is interviewing him.
Okay.
And actually it just added such a dimension to this podcast series, which was already amazing, even if they didn't ever get to talk to him, but they did, and boy, did he like to talk.
Oh.
And when he said something to the effect, now he gets charged, amongst other things, for raping a 4-year-old.
Oh.
This was his, this is ultimate, yes.
We're going there already.
And he is telling this journalist, like, says, this is just what you don't understand. I was in love with this person. And I'm like, oh, what? We just lobotomize. Like, you don't fix that. You don't. Anyway, I was so floored. And I'm just like, God bless Hollie and the people who can do this work. I mean, and even like one of the, he's not an investigator, but like he kind of accidentally stumbled upon something that like created a crack. So same time that law enforcement are investigating this, and they'd already gotten him, but he didn't know, this other guy who like does coding and writes different programs for things also finds like a way in. And so then he goes and meets with these cops, thinking that they're the thugs. And then they're like, how the hell did you find us? They were pissed. Like, how did you find us? And he's like, well, this. So then they team up.
Okay.
But this guy would even say, as he's writing programs to like find these people, he did them in a way where he could not look at content.
Right.
And so it just really opened up a lot of things. I learned a lot, like things that they're doing in Canada and Australia and different countries where what they are making illegal, so that they have a much broader array of things and charges they can level against these perpetrators and producers of this type of content,
Yeah.
but it was unbelievable. I mean, he had a
such a
whole
good
network
podcast.
of producers.
Of course. Yeah.
Producers.
Yeah. There's no shortage.
Burn them all.
unfortunately.
Burn them all. It was horrible. But
I want
like,
to escape from your description of that.
I'm telling you, but it was so well done.
It was so
I
well
couldn't
done.
listen to it again, but I would recommend it.
Okay.
Highly recommend if you want to know what horrors truly are lying out there. And they don't get explicit. Like they
Okay.
don't talk details outside
more the
of raping a
investigation.
4-year-old,
Okay,
but not
yeah.
description of what they're seeing and this type of a thing.
Yeah.
But it is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You know, just like men can love men and women can love women. I love children kind of a thing. And it's like, no.
No, you can't actually. Not
no.
like that.
Yep. When they're
Rewind.
because I think they were approaching as in what a monster, like a monster that sees children as an object. He's like,
No.
I love them.
I was in love with these victims. Yeah. Even one of them
I just threw
was
up in
his
my mouth a little bit.
like a niece, I think, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
horrifying.
it just blew my mind. Yeah.
Mm.
Not my victim. Like I'm attracted to this little person. This is my victim. This is my love interest. Like it totally put a new dimension on this.
Yeah, not
And-
okay.
And they would seek support groups. Get this, support groups for people like to rally around each other that feel this way so that you're not alone.
Oh,
And I mean, I get it in a sense. If you're like genetically predisposed for whatever reason that remains a mystery to me, that's what you're into.
but then seek
but-
real help.
Well, yeah, and he did attempt once, but he didn't get what he wanted, and so he didn't really want it. You know what I mean? But
And I
the
know that-
cockiness. I'm sorry, I
No.
could just go on. I wanted to kill that son of a bitch.
Well, and I would say, I mean, this kind of on that topic, but you know, the internet has emboldened.
Sure.
So, you know, if you were to go back 30 years and somebody was into 5-year-olds, it wasn't like you walked around and said, "Are you into 5-year-olds?" Okay, just
Right.
forget I said anything.
Yeah.
It was truly an understanding that this is taboo. This is illegal. You keep it to yourself, and maybe you can find content, and maybe you could act out, maybe you could find a kid, but you kept it quiet.
Yeah.
Boom, now you have the internet, and all of a sudden you have
Movements.
absolutely, and that sense of we're not alone.
Yeah.
We're not alone. There's millions of people out there just like me
Just
that
like
share the
me.
content, that produce the content, and all of those groups that say there's nothing wrong. There's
Yeah,
absolutely
they're
nothing wrong
working.
with
They're
it.
actively working to normalize the behavior so that they can feel okay with themselves because they know it's wrong. They know it's wrong,
Right.
Yep.
or they wouldn't try to cover their tracks.
Right.
But there are movements, just like when we talked about the incel movement. Have you heard of that? The involuntarily celibate? Like predominantly young men who, you know, basically can't get any or whatever, you know. They have this concept that 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men, so the rest of them are just screwed. And so they have this like violent hatred, and the violence is escalating, and these movements are inciting a lot of violence against women and girls and children. But there's like an opinion and this and that, but they are like, what's the word? Like when you make someone into a hero that's actually a villain. What's that word? Julie, words. Come on. No words. Okay.
No words.
When you're like,
I know the word, but I can't.
yeah, we're all doing it. But you put someone up on a pedestal that's
Yeah.
that's perpetrated these horrors against people. They're doing so now. It's an entire movement. We did an episode on that, and this is what I saw out of that. Hunting Warhead. Again, they're not sponsoring us, but I would absolutely recommend that podcast. But they are trying to normalize it so they can feel good about themselves. It is wild.
Yeah.
Very.
Holly, what are you escaping this fine day?
I'm escaping all of the demands that come with spring and signing kids up and getting kids enrolled and deciding on what's going on for the summer and all of those things.
All of
5 kids.
Yes. 5
Holy
kids.
moly.
Yes. So all of those.
Yeah.
right. We had a short break from our winter sport. And when I say short, it felt like a hot minute, but it was about a month. And we start back in next week. And I'm like, oh, geez. Like even the thought of like driving back and forth, I would
Yes.
like to escape that, quite frankly. Yeah.
Yes.
That and the whisker on my chin that I can feel. It's so
Freaking-
tiny you can't see it, but I can feel it.
I swear that whole, little pig, let me in, or whatever it is, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin, was written for peri and menopausal
Yeah.
women.
That's right.
Freaking whiskers, yeah. Like,
I remember
God damn.
10 years ago when I'd be like, I had like 2 that I had to keep track of, 2. And now,
I have to really watch because there's one I get. Let me see if it's there. Oh my God. But like it'll sneak up on it and it only hits in certain light and I'll go like, oh my God, it's an inch long.
right?
Where'd that come
Where'd
from?
it come from?
And how did somebody else not see it?
So please, I'm giving
me.
you permission. If you
I-
see hair coming out of my chin or any
You have to
other.
have a code word.
Same.
Yes.
You have to have a code word.
Ooh, what's the code word going to be?
Little piggies. Little piggies.
Big bad wolf. Big bad wolf.
Thank you, Holly.
There you go.
I love it. Well, you are here for a reason. And as we mentioned, her previous episode with us was one of the most listened to that we've had.
It sure was.
And
So
it
thank
is
you.
because, I told people, like, even if you don't have kids, if you care about kids, you need to know these things. And so one of the things she talked about was that people don't realize is just how much kids are targeted online. The algorithms are finding ways to advertise to them things that you do not want advertised to your children. And it is really, it's this terrible game that they're playing with our kiddos' minds. So we wanted to bring you back so that we could take 2 on this and give parents and caregivers some tips to have conversations with their kids, which I did for 45 minutes that night. I don't want to tell you that episode traumatized me a little bit, but it did. I was still crying afterwards, wasn't I?
Yep.
Because I was so taken aback by some of the real life stories you told about what you've seen and heartbreaking, the victimization is just heartbreaking. So conversations that we can have that kids can understand and other things that we can do as parents or people who care about kids can do to better protect them. So what advice can you give that you have found to be effective? Let's start with just that conversation. Like I kind of just dove in with my kids. I was like, listen, we had a woman in today. Here's what she told me. And we're going to be changing some things to make sure that
You're not
we
preyed
know
upon.
what you're seeing. And I guess I approached it as I realize it might not be you doing it intentionally, but you have to realize that people are looking at kids and they're trying to get you to do things that I know you don't want to do. And so that's kind of how I started it. Do you have some other suggestions for parents?
Sure. I think where people don't think with that forethought of my kid is 2. I've talked to parents like, I would go to your internet safety presentation, but my kids are so little. And it's like, if you could get parents to start there.
Okay.
If you could get parents to start and say, all right, when my kids were tiny, like 2, I would pull out my phone and say, this is a tool, not a toy. It's a tool, not a toy. It allows me to do work at home. It allows me to be in touch. It's a tool, not a toy. It's also very expensive, so kids don't play with it. And so we started setting those parameters when they were little.
Okay.
That, getting parents to understand that if you give your kid a phone or a tablet at 3 to play with, it's going to be
weapon.
it's going to be exceptionally hard to take that away down the road.
Correct.
It's like jumping into a river. You make that choice, right, of when you're going to jump in. But once you do, you're just in it.
You're in.
And so trying to get parents to say, like, delay, 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 delay.
Okay.
So as long as you can prevent your kid from having that internet life, the longer the better. We just know that psychologically, all the mental health issues that go with being online, having the blue screen, everything. So starting when they're young. Because a lot of parents will say, well, when they get to be teenagers, we'll probably have that conversation.
No.
Absolutely
No. It's happening
not.
so much earlier than people are aware.
Yep. And so having conversations with our kids about even simple things like, is there a human being in front of you? Then where is your device? It's in your pocket. It's in your pocket. Having conversations out loud about, I told my kids one time, I said, I am drawn to my phone like you guys are drawn to the Wii. And they were like, what does that mean? And I was like, I can be sitting here perfectly happy, completely content, and my hand will navigate to my phone. And I said, there's nothing that I need to look at. I don't need to call. I don't need to text. My phone didn't ding or bing, and here I am going to grab it. And I said, I have to tell myself no. So even like sharing with our kids that I'm addicted to this too.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you start by having real conversations about your own use. Like, hey, I got a phone when I was 20. My brain was, pretty close to being developed.
Mostly developed.
Not
Fully developed, for sure.
No, but having conversations with our kids, like, this is when I started. This is what I got, when I first got a phone. It held 60 messages and 36 pictures. Because that's
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And so even our own experience of being young and getting a phone, sharing those with our kids, that, man, you guys have it totally different than I do. And these are some of the things that I have to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Yep. And so just opening that up, I think it's really important with kids that we're not saying if, we're saying when. Like, I know my kids are going to be exposed to porn. I know that. So instead of saying, if you ever see somebody naked, when you see naked people, come talk to me about that. If you have friends that show you naked stuff, come talk to me about that. So it's really this open conversation. I always tell people when I present, I can be really intense. And my the two little guys that we adopted a couple years ago, when we first got them, he said, you look mad all the time. And I said, and I told him, I said, I have very punchy eyes. And because my other kids had told me, like, you have punchy eyes. I was like, I do have punchy eyes. And so I told him, I said, I look mad, but I'm not mad. And he said, well, can I ask you? And I was like, yeah, you can ask me anytime. Are you mad? Nope. Nope. But I was, my biggest fear is that my kids would have something to tell me, and they would be freaked out that I would freak out. My husband would freak out. So I just opened that door. Like, I want you to tell Grandma and Grandpa. I want you to tell me and Papa Greg. I want you to tell someone. You can tell a teacher, tell your pastor. Like, I give you permission to tell someone. Okay. So it's really this communication that I know that if you're on the internet, you're going to see things you're not meant to see.
Right.
You're going to hear things you're not meant to hear. And even if I avoid you having any technology, you will still be exposed.
Right.
So having that conversation of like, hey, let's talk about what you're going to see.
Yeah.
I think parents can have this false sense of security. My kid wouldn't.
Yep.
Right.
And it's like, you can trust your kid all you want, but do you trust the world with your kid?
No, I don't.
No.
Right.
And I mean, we have a front door, right? We have a front door. And if somebody were coming over to see your kid and they were to go through the front door, knock on the front door and say, hey, may I speak with your kid? There would be this expectation of like, that's the right way to come at me. And that's the right way to come at my kid because I'm able to determine, I'm able to filter that out. But when we use a phone, we might as well put a door on our child's bedroom and say, you can come and go
right
into my kid's life with no filter, with no understanding of what they're seeing, because that's what a device does. And so if parents were to have that conversation of, look, even if I went through your phone, I'm not going to see everything there is there right. That's on there. Let's talk about how we're going to address that.
That's a really interesting imagery that comes into my mind. We mentioned earlier, you said it's not a toy, it's a tool. I called it a weapon, but it's really a portal.
It is.
It's a portal. It's a doorway. And that gave me the chills.
Because, our kids can send their pictures, videos anywhere they want, right?
But I mean, it's literally because it's such a mental type of, interaction on that device. Like, it's literally a doorway into their brains, their psyches, and the damage that's being done in the wake of those interactions is, it's horrific. It's sometimes irreparable.
Yeah, and I think they don't understand how much they give away. So
right.
Talking to kids and being like, okay, so your digital footprint is everything you do online, right? All your posting online, all your online presence, your shopping, your spending, your locations.
The
right
games
now,
you're playing.
Yep, the games you're playing. Right now, all three of our phones are exchanging advertising IDs, showing that we're all in the same room together. So it shows who we hang out with.
Is that why I'm starting to get shoe ads popping up?
Shut up.
Already sitting next to me.
That's it.
Shut up.
But then there's our digital exhaust, and that's everything that our data says about us. So let's just say if you touch your phone all the time, you're going to have this profile that you're anxious, you're dependent, you're codependent, right? You probably have anxiety disorder. I mean, there's all of this stuff that it says about you. If you're constantly going through the fast food drive-through, what does that say about you?
Oh my God.
If you
I mean, I'm not.
If you're
but
refreshing,
where am I
your
going?
screen,
Oh my God, I'm going to be paranoid driving around town now.
all your places that you're going, the people that you're hanging out with,
I'm actually
where
pretty
you
boring.
just everything that you are doing, it is saying, because you have kids that they don't touch their phone ever. And so what are they seeing? They're seen as independent, confident, smart. I mean, there's all of these things, and kids don't understand that the second they have an internet connected devices, that data brokerage starts. And so they just give away all the stuff. They're constantly on it. How many pictures people take of themselves? Again, people look at that and go, "Oh, they're easily influenced. They're
vain.
well."
Maybe.
And then, did you read the book 1984?
Yes.
I didn't.
Oh, you should.
I
It's so good.
know. It's a
So-
classic, right? And I'm
So
missing out.
One of the things that happens is in 1984, everyone has a telescreen in their home, which they have to be on the screen at all times. There's no privacy. Everything they do is recorded so the government can watch, right? And we were having a conversation. My niece just read the book, and she's like, "Oh, Auntie, that's so scary."
And
so
you're like,
Guess what?
guess what? But I asked her, I said, where do you get, we were having this conversation the other day in the office too about how do you think they got to a place where everyone was willing to sacrifice privacy to have a telescreen in their home? Now, I want you to think about your device. If it is listening 24/7, it has all your text messages, all your searches, all your audio. Is there anything in there that you wouldn't want your friends or family members to see? Your bosses? I mean, just you think about it, and the second somebody says, "Well, I have a audio of you saying terrible things about your mother-in-law," so you can either put a telescreen up, or I've got this for your mother-in-law. I have these things you've said about your own children. I have this that you've said about your boss. I have these things that you have done. You mentioned to your husband out loud that's recorded that maybe your taxes weren't filed correctly, and maybe they should have been done differently. You think about it, they're just little devices that catch all of our inconsistencies and all of the ways that we truly feel about people. That's a lot to be blackmailed on.
Yeah.
Where people said, "Hey, your livelihood depends on these 3 statements. Do you want to tell a screen or not?" It's
Okay.
I do remember somebody commenting or reading something not too long ago about 1984 and referencing, isn't it amazing that when people think of that book and it's like the fear of not having privacy. And it's like, but we're in an age now where we're telling everybody everything.
Yeah. And so you look at these kiddos that are starting just tiny, that little portal into their life that they say everything, they do everything, they capture everything on film. And they just don't get it, like really what they're giving away. And then parents don't understand because you have a kid who has a device in their hand and it's out of a parent's hair. So the parents are like, "Yeah, it's kind of nice."
They don't realize they're sacrificing their child for that reprieve.
Absolutely.
One of the ways I started the conversation with my kiddos or progressed through it, especially with the younger one, was to say, we were talking about chatting. And I just kind of put out there, like, have you ever had somebody try to chat with you or chatted back? And he said, well, I said hi to somebody once. And I was like, never again. Never again. And here's why. And I kind of walked them through what you walked us through in the previous episode, which is how predators get kids to do things that kids would not normally do. And it starts very simply with the highs, things that kids would not normally do. So I was kind of brutally honest.
Good.
But that's what I just walked him through, what you walked us through, which is this is how it starts. It starts very innocently. And then they have you. They get you.
Yep.
And it's just one more thing. It's one more thing. And so I was like, there is no chatting with people we don't know, period. And I also said, here's the thing. If somebody's claiming that it is somebody you know, let's say it's your buddy Leo. Guess what? I know Leo's mom. I can ask Leo's mom, is this coming from Leo? And we're not at that point with him yet. I mean, he doesn't have his own device, so it's kind of a moot point. But even putting that into his head now, like if you don't know them, you don't know them.
Double check.
And there are ways to check. And if we don't know them in person, we're not going to get to know them online, period.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't know if that was a good way to go, but, you know, kids are not stupid.
No.
And treating them with kid gloves, pun intended, is not always necessary. Like, he is old enough to, I think, understand where I'm coming from. And, you know, they at first were kind of giggling about, and I was like, you guys, I was in tears listening to this today. And then we, with the getting to know them just a little bit, and pretty soon they just ask more of them, and they're providing more information. And then eventually it leads to photos, and it might be a photo of your face this time, but it could be a photo of a private area next time. I will tell you, the repulsed face on my 10-year-old told me that probably has not been something he's ever been asked before. He was horrified. He was like, what? That's so weird. And I said, yes, it is. But that's how they get kids to do. He got real serious real fast, you know? And so,
Which is good.
I think you'll like this. My 13-year-old said to me, commented about how he had seen a cartoon. And I don't know if it was something somebody shared at school or someplace else, but he said it was like a middle-aged or older man sitting at a computer screen. This is just an illustration. He's sitting at a computer screen, and on the desk next to him is a stack of masks. And he's taking off a mask and putting on.
Yeah.
And it was an illustration of how people can pretend to be somebody else online.
That's great.
And it stuck with him. And
That's
so
great.
he, like the conversation about like you don't really know who you're talking to, he totally got it. He's actually the one who, you know, shared that back. Yeah, I saw this cartoon once and it showed it like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So
That's
true,
great.
right?
Really brilliant. That actually brings to mind the cover art KB did for our Call Me Fernando episode,
Yeah.
which there's a guy sitting behind the screen with a mask on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had a in fact, we got to talk to the Secret Service recently
Awesome.
because of this episode, which I don't know why I think that's so cool. But this guy reaches out to us, and he's supposed to be like a high up VP president of a huge, like, what was it? What kind
It
of
was like an
company?
investment firm or something,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
like a holdings company kind of a
Yeah.
thing, and, you know, doing work all over the globe, and somehow got turned on to One Heart, wanted to take a sabbatical and do fundraising for us and all this stuff. So on its surface, like, it seemed okay. I start researching the guy, and every like press release or newsworthy thing I could find either seemed like AI generated or is from some obscure news thing, like nothing mainstream,
Wasn't
right?
Forbes or Fortune
No, not
or
at all.
Wall Street Journal.
In fact, I was doing some podcast research earlier today, and I ran across, I will not call anybody out, but a podcaster who interviewed him thinking he's legit.
Oh,
And the picture that they could use, this is what was funny. So this happened last Thanksgiving. My husband went and like pulled together all these images of him from the internet. It's the same damn head photoshopped onto all these different
Are you
nice
serious?
suits and same exact head. And so now I look and I'm like, nope, that's all fake. It's all fake. It's all fake. So anyway, they reached out and said, hey, we heard your episode on this. Have any other victims like reached out to you in the wake of that? But that just happened to be the artwork that KB did for the thumbnail on promoting the episode, was this guy behind a mask. And I'm like, yep,
That's him.
yep.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, you can be anyone you want online.
Yeah.
And I don't think kids understand that. They just...
Well, they're too innocent to think that somebody can just make something up, and throw it out there. I mean, that used to be like we used to play certain things as kids. You would play a mom with 4 kids. You would play a dancer, or this or that. And now so much of play is on a screen.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yep.
But
and
yeah,
that's
it
what they
doesn't
do.
translate that like the person you're talking to might not be the person they
It's
say
not
they are.
another 10 or 13-year-old.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
So and some of this might be a repeat, but it is worth repeating. What can parents do in addition to those conversations? What can parents do to really... We cannot fully escape the digital world. That is not the world we live in. But there are some steps we can take, and then I'll share what we've done since I talked to you.
Sure. So I always stress with kids, technology is a tool, not a lifestyle. It's a tool, right?
Yeah. It's all how you use it.
Yep. And so even when my kids write reports, you go downstairs, you look in the encyclopedia first, you look in the dictionary second, and then if you can't find anything there. And so there's this understanding of like, let's talk to our kids, let's teach them technology. What is Google? What is Bing? What is DuckDuckGo? What is pre-search, de-search? Going through and really making kids see that as the tool that it is. So having those conversations about like, what is the internet? What is it for? What do some people use it for? Because sometimes even just starting the conversation with, it's not just dangerous, but let's learn how to use it, right? Because it's a weapon. But you can also use a weapon the right way. Mm-hmm. Children's Home has amazing what-if cards. Okay. So the what-if cards cover everything. What if you were home alone and got hurt? What if you were at your friend's house and they wanted to show you their dad's gun? What if you were on the internet and somebody showed their private parts? What if you were on the internet and somebody asked where you lived? What I really like about it is it's got like a spinner, so it'll land on a category, and then you pick one up. There's teachers here in Rapid City that will read one off every morning with the kids, and it's just a what if.
Yeah.
So that was developed because when you think about safety with kids, we often do these kind of like, hey, parting things like, hey, nobody should do that. Or you shouldn't do this. And then we're kind of like, all right, I got that covered, Mom of the Year, I got that covered. And then you just move on. But you think about like a tornado drill. Okay, they do a tornado drill in the beginning of the year. And then, later in the year, they try to do another one. And they were like, what do we do? And there's some kids that are like, we get under a desk, or a fire drill. Yeah. And they do it one time and they expect a kid to master it. But that's not what it should look like. At the police academy, we did things where we draw our gun, and they would do things like, what if you didn't have cover? What if you didn't have concealment? What if your partner was down? What if? And the more you tried on scenarios in your head, the more effective you were. So when they took you out and they were shooting wax bullets at you, if you were really trying on scenarios, you were more successful in not getting shot. And so it's no different with our kids. I think of one of the guys that was my client, and he was a youth pastor. And he said, he would touch kids, and then he would say things like, you weren't supposed to let anybody touch you, and you just let me. I don't want you to get in big trouble, so if you don't tell, I won't. And so what do parents say? Don't let anybody touch you? So one of the questions in the what if thing is, what if somebody you really love touched your private parts and you didn't want to get in trouble? I mean, it's really simple, but it's things where you're saying, what if your friend asked you to keep a secret about them getting hurt? What if you saw a kid alone on the playground? What if somebody asked you to find a lost dog? And all of these things, there's no answers on them. Those are truly for parents to fill in the blank. People ask me all the time, like, what's a good age for kids to have devices? And there's that what if question. In my house, it's about maturity. It has nothing to do with age. Mm-hmm. And I tell my kids, like, that's trust and maturity. And we use those what if scenarios. I mean, you can, I'm going to use Brandy. I worked with Brandy, and while we were developing the what if game, she said, well, I'll go home. She said, I worked child protection for years. Now she's a forensic interviewer. She said, let me try them with my daughter. And she said, what if somebody touched your private parts and told you not to tell because I'd be mad? And she said, oh, she'll know this. And she said, well, I wouldn't tell you because I wouldn't want you to be mad.
Oh.
She said, here it is. You think your kids know it, and they don't. And so really having those conversations like, what if you were on the internet and somebody asked you for your full name? What if you're on the internet and somebody asked you about your parents? And, just really having conversations in which you can educate them, but you also really get to know your kids. You really get to know where they stand. Working with offenders for years as a counselor, I would say things like, an easy grooming technique would be an accidental touch. Tickling kids, fondling kids, wrestling with kids. And so, but if you ask kids, what if somebody accidentally touched your private parts? What are most kids going to say? Well, I wouldn't have to tell because it was an accident. So when I ask my kids, what if somebody accidentally touched your private parts? And they say, well, I wouldn't have to tell. Nope, it's really important that anybody touches your private parts, you let me know. I'll decide if it's a good touch, private touch, secret touch, special touch. I'll decide.
Yeah.
You just let me know and I'll handle it.
Okay.
Right? I mean, so in reality, when you're asking your kids these questions, you're getting a feel for what they know and what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So, you're talking about the internet. And you're having the chance to say, like, what if somebody sent you a friend request that you thought was your friend? Bringing up what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Are there ways for us to figure out if that's truly that person?
Sure are.
Code word. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's the code word, Sally?
Well, and you guys, I'm sure you've read those articles on code words where,
I haven't.
how many kids. So I don't believe in sleepovers at all. And I'll tell you, being in the field I worked with offenders, sex offenders, before I had kids. But listening to offenders talk about touching kids that stayed the night at their house. Yeah. And then spending, 8.5 years as an interviewer in which kids would talk about, like, I tried to get close to the wall. I tried to move close to the other kid. I tried to cough. I tried to stretch. I tried to basically, it made me think about my own kids. And when my own kids are in their bed and they have a bad dream or their tummy hurts or something's going on, they wake up and they call out to me and they call out to my husband. If they're sitting at somebody else's house, who are they going to call out to?
Right.
And if it's the parent or a teenager in the home doing it, what are they going to do? Can I use your phone to call and tell on you?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Most
they're
kids,
not going to do that.
most kids pretend to sleep.
Yeah.
They just have to suffer through it and just make it through it. So
I've done that.
yeah. And so you think of just those, what if questions. But let's just say your kiddo goes to somebody's house and they're sitting there and a parent comes home drunk. And not being in a position where it's like calling and saying, hey, can you come get me right now? They're drinking and I don't know what to do. But if you have a code word like tater tot casserole, you text that and it's like, hey, you're coming home now. You didn't get your homework done. Your room's not clean. Mom, I want to stay here. I don't care that you want to stay there.
Gotcha.
I'm on my way right now.
You really need this tater tot casserole.
Yes. There's no discussion. There's no debate. You're basically going to walk in and agree to be the bad guy. Yep. So whether that is a text or a phone call or anything else, there's just a way to have that conversation.
That is really good.
Brilliant. Yeah. I have seen somebody, it was as simple as an X. Like they could almost claim that it was like a mistype, and it was no matter what, I'm coming. Yep. Like I know you're not comfortable and I'm coming. Yep. And you just know I'll be outside. I'm on my way.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. So yeah.
I think it's really important for parents to understand how not addicted, but how connected kids are to their devices. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about sextortion, we talk about things that are big deals, like really, really big things for kids. And then we're like, why didn't you tell someone? Because I didn't want my phone taken away.
Right.
So here they are taking these horrible videos every night to satisfy some creep, right? Yep. In sextortion. And yet they're not telling because they don't want their parents to see the videos or the text messages. But a big part of it is, I don't want my phone taken away.
So do you think that's the actual addiction to the device, or do you think that is the connection to the friends? Do you think it
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
But I think, like with my kids, I would say that, that privilege and responsibility go hand in hand. So if you're talking to me about, hey, just so you know, I did add a phone number on my phone because that's all they can do is talk and text. I added a phone number. Well, I appreciate you telling me that. What are you supposed to do? I'm supposed to ask you and Dad before I ask phone numbers. Okay, well, I appreciate you letting me know before I found it out on my own. And that's part of that responsibility, right? That discussion. But if I am so hard-edged with like, oh, there's a phone number, you did that, you're going to lose it for 5 days.
If you use your punchy eyes?
Yes, my punchy eyes. I think it can really send kids into that. I'll do anything I can to keep everything from you.
Right.
Yep. So parents are walking this very fine line.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yes. Yes, I know.
You know that fine line.
Yes, I know the fine line.
And
Yeah.
so just this week I'm going through 3 iPhones. And 2 of the iPhones I was able to do data extraction, in which my forensic software does everything. It parses all the data, puts all the pictures together, videos together, text messages, internet searches, everything, right? But that one I have to go through manually. And all I can think is poor parents, because going through it manually, I will never see the level of detail. I will never see everything I can see forensically. Just, I mean, that's the
So
reality.
their parents are at a disadvantage.
Absolutely. And kids know it. Kids know.
And predators
again,
know it.
Oh, and they do. They do.
Yeah, kids are smart.
Yep.
We are fooling ourselves if we think they're not.
And it's funny how many times kids will say, yeah, you're not going to find that. And the investigator detective will look at them and say, she's not just going to look through it. She's going to extract all of the data on your device. And then she's going to go through it. And then they're like, well, maybe I should tell you. Yep. Because it's
So-
different.
The day that you came in last time, that night we went to kind of an orientation. It was kind of an introduction to high school. And the school resource officer, I did kind of love it. But it was a real sign to me that there are certain things that a lot of people in your field can simply agree on. And one of them is that a certain app starts with snap, ends with chat.
Yes.
So he just was basically like, it's the devil.
Yep.
And he goes, there's a file on there within the app that is for your eyes only. And he said, if your kid says it requires a code, and if your kid says they don't know the code, they are lying. And I kind of chuckled because I had spoken to you, 6 hours earlier. But I'm sure that I think there were kids in the event that were taking Snapchats. I mean, nothing inappropriate when you're sitting in front of other people. But I'm just going really? Even now, the phones are out.
Yep.
Now, there weren't a lot, but there still were some. And I'm thinking to myself, because they're sitting in groups instead of with their parent.
Yep.
I
just talked to somebody that did the, bring your parent to class. And this parent was like watching kids sit and play on their phones the entire class.
Yeah.
And really even at the end, and they do the group and they're like, oh, okay, parents, what did you think? And they're like, why?
Why are there cell phones?
Why are
in
there
the
cell
classroom?
phones? And it's like, it's kind of a losing battle. And, parents want their kids to be connected the whole time. And so you're fighting not only the kids, you're fighting the parents. And I was just like,
yes. My friend who's a teacher has said when there are kids with watches, the text messages are often coming from the parents. And it's in the middle of the day.
Yep.
And she's like, you know exactly where they are.
Yep.
You know exactly where they are. It's not a safety thing. We talked about that last time.
Not a safety thing at all.
It's not a safety thing. It is, you can't let it go. You can't just let them
go.
be in class. And she teaches 5th grade, right?
And I think about, I was a latchkey kid.
Yeah,
and I
same.
think about, you're left in the morning and you didn't see your parents. You didn't even talk to them until after 5 o'clock.
Right.
And now parents are like, no, got to check in.
Yeah.
No.
Are you an employer who's tired of expensive hiring platforms that fail to find good matches? Or are you a job seeker entering or re-entering the workforce, or looking for a more meaningful career? Check out Gravitate.work. Gravitate highlights job seekers' skills and offers short tutorials to help them through the hiring process. Our binary matching tools better match skill sets with open jobs. And employers can provide quick but crucial feedback to candidates they consider. Check it all out at Gravitate.work today.
I don't know. I hope I get a high five from Holly. We did put Bark
Good job.
on the phone. I got a high five.
Yes.
We did do that.
Good.
And my husband was the one who's like, look, I looked at, because I just told him a little bit. I don't know if he listened to the full episode or if I just told him enough to fully express how horrified I was by parts of our conversation. But regardless, he just said, we'll just do it. We'll just see. And we have it on a super high sensitivity. So we've asked to be alerted for all sorts of things. And sometimes the alerts are annoying.
Yes.
Because, sorry about that, because they are, sometimes I would guess it can't fully tell like what the video is or and so it will just alert you regardless. And one of them was actually a really funny video. My kid had already, he showed me when he saw it and was laughing hysterically, and it was perfectly innocent. But Bark alerted us to it after the fact. And I said to Jeremy, I saw the video. It's just a really annoying song that won't get out of your head. Just don't hit it. But we, have definitely taken some additional steps. And we felt like probably a lot of parents do before, where I'm checking it. And we even said to our kids, it's not you necessarily that we don't trust, but anybody can send you stuff and it can get you in trouble. Period.
Yep.
So we have to be watchful of that. It is our job. Like, we're here to protect you, and you're ours until you're 18 and out of our house.
Yep.
Period. Like, I don't know what else to say. I know it's annoying, but I want to protect you as much as I can. That's why I'm here.
Trying to get them in that headspace of people are watching.
Yes.
And you should be acting as if people are watching.
Yep.
So I teach Intro to Forensic Science at the co-op. And one of the things we were talking about was facial recognition software. So Clearview, it was pretty awesome. So the CEO is talking to this, like an anchor, news anchor.
Okay.
And this investigator, and so he takes a picture of him, and the guy has his hand over his mouth.
Okay.
So basically, you just see his nose up, takes a picture, and just like that, shows him every picture of him on the internet.
Shut up.
It's Clearview. It's amazing. And so I showed him this video on like how it works and what they use it for and law enforcement. And then I showed him a video of Kevin O'Leary.
I don't know who that
And
is.
so he's on Shark Tank.
Okay.
And he said, January 6th, on Capitol Hill,
Yeah.
and then showed all these different protests. And he's like, they have been able to ID every single person.
Right.
With masks, with hoodies, with sunglasses, everything. They've been able to ID every single person. And he said, and that is the ID, and they're on the dark web like 48 hours. He said, I use this in all my hiring.
Oh, wow.
He said, I'm not really caring what side you're on as much as, if you are breaking windows and assaulting police officers, we have a problem.
Definitely
And so
have a problem.
I was showing the kids about, how many times you're online and, you have buddies taking videos of you. Mm-hmm. Or, you send a really dumb video of yourself and then your buddy posts it. And then what happens? All of that can be scraped. And that's all Clearview does, is to scrape the internet. It's got like over 3 billion images. Jeez. And so getting kids to understand that there's nothing private, there's nothing secret, and that down the road, your big job, you may have compromised because you have some stupid video of you using words that you don't even understand, or you know better not to be using.
Right. Yeah. My husband talked to my kiddos about that too. Like, once it's out there, once it's on the device, it can be used against you in court. It could be used against you in hiring. It can be used against you on college applications. if somebody sees it, it can be used against you. And that was kind of one of the things that sparked the conversation was just language. Like, I realize you're not using that language, but your buddy is. And if you do, it can always be used against you. And you just have to know that. Like, you have to, and take a beat before you do something stupid. And especially if you're doing it on a phone or online somewhere where it doesn't go away. Like, that's what we just always reiterate. It doesn't go away.
And I want to come back to the rule of fives with this, but I think we're touching on something that parents have to understand, is that if the only reason kids are going to follow our rules is because of danger or staying out of trouble, they're not going to. When we go into the schools, we always focus on, like, what do kids get out of this, right? Because think about when you were a teenager and a kid, like being very self-absorbed, right? It's all about me. It's all about what I want, and I want to have fun, and I don't like rules, right? But when we start talking about, hey, what's something, I always walk in school and I'm like, so who in here wants to go to college? Hands go up. I'm like, so who in here wants to travel the world? And some hands go up. And I'm like, anybody in here want to play pro sports, pro ball? Anybody in here want to have a really good job? Who wants to have their own house, their own cars? And so we kind of start walking through that. And I'm like, in order to have money and in order to be able to have your cool stuff, you have to be hired. And it's not just being hired, but even having your own business. If you have your own business and they start doing research into who you are and they have a bunch of videos of you using the N-word, there's people that maybe say, I don't care if he was singing a song, or I don't care if it was part of a skit or whatever you were doing. I won't do business with them. So here they are, and just thinking, getting them to think that long term. It's not about pleasing your parents. It's not about staying out of trouble. It's the fact that you could be taking away your dreams, your dreams, fun things that you get to do.
Yeah.
Yep. And that, I always say, like, does this or does this not increase the chances of you being blackmailed down the road?
Oh.
So the rule of fives. So Sadie Robertson did the 5-second rule, which was after I did the rule of fives for a while. I was like, well, I'm adding the 5-second rule. So she has this 5-second rule, and it's like human beings do really dumb things because we don't like the awkward silence. So if you said, Hollie, will you help me move? Sure. Right? And I say yes, not because I want to say yes, but because the awkward silence of somebody that I like asking me to do something. And so we always talk with the kids, like if somebody asks you to make out, sneak out, smoke up, drink up, cheat on an exam, and you say no, it gets awkward. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seconds feels like an eternity, but you've just chosen 5 seconds of awkward over a lifetime of regret. So getting kids to think like that 5-second. So with electronics, I always did like 5 minutes. So when I'm angry at my husband and I'm typing up and I'm chewing him out, and I simply ask myself, 5 minutes from now, is my marriage better or worse? Delete. Right? Because I plan on being married him till the day I die. So I ask kids, like, before you hit send, you should be asking, am I worried about anybody forwarding this? Anybody screenshotting this? Am I worried about coming home from school, my parents saying, your principal called today, let me see your phone? If you're worried about anything, put delete. And then the 5 hours. So 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years. So the next one is 5 hours. I always tell kids, like, human beings have a remarkable ability to get really excited, really mad, really hot and bothered, really sad, and 5 hours later, it's just gone. And so you have to determine if you're going to sacrifice 5 hours from now from what you're about to do right now. So even I give the example of not doing your homework. You want to go to the football game, right? I mean, that's what you plan to do, and then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. So you even sending that text, you're chatting back and forth, and 5 hours from now you start thinking, what are they going to do with that? Or I can't believe I just told somebody to F off. Oh, now I've got to face that person tomorrow at school. So fast forwarding their life 5 hours from now. The next one is 5 days. And I ask the kids, we live in such a connected world. If you do anything really good, bad, ugly, stupid, funny, 5 days from now, will most kids in the school know? And they're like, yep. I'm like, all right, so I just want you to imagine 5 days from now, you're walking down the hallway and you're hearing people talk about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Is it still cool to be you in five days? And then 5 years from now, are you okay defending this text message? 5 years from now in a college interview or job interview, are you okay defending? Like, I mean, I did dumb things when I was a teenager, but there's no pictures.
There's no proof.
Yes. And so really getting kids, if you lived in my house, you hear me say, like, I'm going to start the laundry right now because Holly of tomorrow morning is going to hate Holly of tonight if I don't. I mean, I get my kids hearing that all the time, like, Holly of tomorrow just wants to relax. So Holly of tonight has the heavy lift of getting stuff done, and just teaching them of, man, how can I make it better for Holly of tomorrow? I think I'm going to pack my lunch. And I try to get kids to understand. And I tell my kids all the time, I do not have to live your life 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years from now. You better pick the kind of life you want and live it. Otherwise, you're just going to live by default. So you better pick it. So really just pushing our kids to think about themselves down the road.
I'm going to have my kiddo listen to the last 5 minutes of this conversation. I'll just play it. We could just start right there.
There you go. And with kids, so I'll do things like with little kids for parents. So just a second, you don't want to pick up your toys? Well, 5 minutes from now, you're just getting time out.
Yeah.
And you still have to pick up your toys. What's it like to be you in 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. And you'll see the kids, I'll just do it. Well, good idea. Good idea. Yeah. Or it's like if I have a kid running their mouth, I'll say, just a second, time out real quick. All right, just a second. 5 hours from now, you're going to be in bed and we're staying up watching a movie. What's it like to be you in bed when the rest of the family's out watching a movie? Well, all right, I'm giving you the option right now. What do you want to be doing 5 hours from now? With my kids when they were younger and they wouldn't do their chores, I'd say, just a second. 5 days from now, we're at the dollar store. What's it like to be you at a dollar store without any money? Without any money. And the kids are like, I'm doing my chores. Yeah. Yep. And so really getting kids to understand that they have to pick the life they want. And so I asked my kids, like, try on your fives. How does that work?
Yeah.
So we did this one year with the kids at Douglas. And the next year I went back and one of the kids made a poster, the rule of fives.
Love it.
Yeah. And just crazy where that came from. I was working with a client who... He's like, I constantly use drugs. And he said, and I never think about, like, my actions down the road. Mm-hmm. And he said, I just need something. I was like, all right. So the next week I'm sitting with him and I said, I came up with something for you. I was like, all right, it's going to be the fives. He goes, okay. I said, how do you feel 5 minutes after you get done smoking weed? He's like, I feel good. I said, I bet you do. I said, how do you feel 5 hours later? He goes, paranoid. Paranoid, I'll flunk a UA. I said, how do you feel 5 days later? He goes, still. He goes, I got 30 days. I said, how do you feel if 5 years from now you're still on probation, parole, or some kind of paper because of the weed you're about to smoke? He goes, it makes me want to throw up. I said, then that's what you do in your head. You walk through your fives and you get to a place of, like, figuring out if that's the kind of reality. And he's like, that's all it took. And so then when I became a mom, I was like, rule of fives. Rule of fives. So, yeah, there you are.
On to something here.
Yeah. I love it. Holly, thank you so much for coming back. It's
absolutely
awesome. I have to say, I think of you as a bit of a superwoman. So the fact you still have to go home and do laundry is kind of a bummer because
so much
I feel
laundry.
like you're taking on the weight of the world in so many ways that you shouldn't have to do your own laundry. But God bless you for doing all the work
listen to this
at home and at work, professionally and personally. Let's, on that, that's a great way to end this episode. Let's talk about where we'd like to escape to, a little escapism co-host style. Do you have one? You're
first.
looking at me like
first.
crazy. I think I am, where am I escaping to? It's hard sometimes, isn't it? The fun things. Maybe a little, well, it's not a podcast episode. I am watching Only Murders in the Building. So it's a show about podcasting, and I think I'm almost done with the season I'm on. So this is when it always, like, there's parts where I have a hard time getting through it, and as we get closer to the end, it gets really exciting, and then I can kind of wrap them up quickly. But Holly, what about you? Any place you'd like to escape to? Something you'd like to do?
Tonight I am teaching class for Love Inc. and I love my loving classes. So I look forward to them and I look forward to the people we work with. So yeah, very soon.
Awesome. Can I ask what class do you teach?
I teach a class called Bridges to Freedom. So it's on communication, relationships, and if it involves living, any part of living, we cover it.
Well, the rule of 5 would apply to all that stuff too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really like that one.
Absolutely.
I love it.
It's, and people, even in our marriage, like 5 minutes from now, I always say, like, it's taught me in parenting that even like with my kids of saying, you guys can just watch a movie, and then ask myself 5 minutes from now, I'm going to have to stop that movie and get them back on their chores. Like even 5 minutes from now is parenting. If I allow them to do this now, what's it going to be like in 5 years? So yeah, even as a parent, it's really
effective.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, did you think of something, Miss Charity?
Well, I think what I'm just looking forward to is our executive team retreat tomorrow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there are 7 of our team that are going to get together off-site and really talk about all of the initiatives within the One Heart universe. And programming's solid, taken care of, but the things that could actually generate revenue, like including this podcast and talk about next level stuff. Gravitate, our hiring platform. We just had our first successful One Heart hired someone through the tool. So I'm really excited about that. And just like, we are all so maxed out here. Mm-hmm. And yet we're doing really big, important, amazing things. But we can't keep hovering at this level indefinitely. We have to be able to break that ceiling and move onward and upward, or this looks like kind of a bleak outlook of like, okay, we can't maintain this. We're going to get burned out. How do we hit that next level? What kind of resources do we need? Is it people resources? Is it, reallocation of job duties? What is it? And so we're just going to get together offsite, not do our real jobs, and just brainstorm all day with a facilitator and go through these things. And so I've been doing a lot of prep work for it, and I'm just so excited. Like, I love creating new things, and
that's awesome.
It's a good way to end the week.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Holly, and thanks everybody for tuning in. You incredible escape artists we have listening. We are grateful for every single one of you. The Escape Pod is just a 3-person labor of love, and your support keeps us going each week. We're on a mission to grow this podcast, kind of like Charity said, so that we can pour more resources into the nonprofit One Heart in Rapid City, South Dakota. Every dollar empowers people to break free from crisis and reclaim their lives. More listeners, more downloads, more impact. It is that simple.
That's right. We truly are a podcast for a cause. And here's where you come in. Become a patron at escapepod.live and not only unlock bonus content, but you can unlock the warm fuzzies of knowing that you're funding real-life breakouts. It's a win-win in this day and age when those seem harder and harder to come by. And for just a few bucks a month, you're not just a listener, you're a hero in our story.
And pro tip, downloading episodes beats streaming every time. It boosts our stats, pulls in more ad revenue, and helps us climb the charts so we can reach even more people. Share us with a friend, rate and review wherever you listen, and hit that download button. Those are all free options. You pay nothing to do those. And it is a tiny click with a massive ripple effect.
And we really want to hear from you. Connect with us at escapepod.live. You can follow us on socials, drop us a note at justbecause@escapepod.live, or send your wild escape story to escapeartist@escapepod.live, and maybe we'll read it on a future episode.
We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod, but remember, trauma may be inevitable. How you grapple with it is optional. So stay resilient.
And
follow the 5s.
Yes, following the rule of 5.
And keep laughing.
Yeah, also that.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.